My name's Teresa Tia, and I'll be your platform leader for today. Our lesson today will be brought to us by the lovely Reverend Sandra von Gyllenband. And we have our musician today, the lovely Leanne Atherton. And so we're going to start out with our welcome song, and Leanne's going to come up.
So glad you're here. So glad you're here. Yeah, so glad you're here. You know, fellowship is sweeter just knowing you're near. It's so good to see you. I hope that it's clear. Everyone loves you. It's so glad you're here. Yes, so glad you're here. Oh, it's so glad you're here. The fellowship is sweeter just knowing you're near. It's so good to see you. I hope that it's clear. Everyone loves you. We're so glad you're here. Yes, everyone loves you. We're so glad you're here. Woo. Everyone loves you. We're so glad you are here.
Now we're going to have our affirmations, and these are a tool to create our reality. So we're going to first affirm our prosperity with an affirmation of positive prayer, and we'll say this together. God is my instant, constant, abundant source of supply. I am blessed with health, wealth, happiness, wisdom, love, and success. Yay. Okay. And now we affirm for our spiritual community together. With our thoughts, words, and actions, we make a powerful and positive difference in Austin, Texas, and in our world.
And I want to talk about the divine two-step. And when I got this message to do divine two-step, I was reading something by Richard Rohr, and I was like, oh, would be such a good title for a talk. I think I'll use it. And then yesterday I found out he's written a whole book called The Divine Two-Step, which probably is a good book, but we're doing something a little bit different today. I didn't even go down that road. I haven't seen the book, but it's important for us to look at how we dance in life, don't you think? And how do you dance in life? Do you find that place, that space where you dance with somebody and you do a good job of that? How many of you are good dancers? All right, I am so glad. I am not a good dancer, but I know what a good dance looks like. And I know when I am not doing a good job. It's usually because the person's going, ow, ow. So the divine two-step is when we get into that place, that flow, where we are dancing with the divine. We are in that flow. We are taking the steps. But here's the thing. Can two people lead in a dance? Okay, so we've established that two people can't lead. That means one person's going to lead in a dance. And who are we going to let that person be? Are we dancer? The better dancer. I like it. So if we are going to dance with the divine, who do we want to lead that dance?
The divine.
The divine, because probably the steps are clearer there. What does that mean to let the divine lead us? Well, first of all, we're going to look at God's will versus our own will. We like to get into that power, don't we? We want our own will, but yet we say we're willing to live in the will of God. And that means getting quiet and listening. And I'm going to be saying that a lot, getting quiet and listening. So if we're going to follow God's will, we're going to get quiet. We're going to listen. We're going to find out what the dance is. It's two-step or the waltz or one of those other things that I can't even follow because I don't understand. Where does dancing start? It is one of those powers that we use a lot of, and that's the creative power. So no dance is started without some creation, right? There's an image in the mind of if we do this and we step this way and we step that way and we go back and we go forth, we'll have a dance. It's going to feel a certain way. There's going to be a flow. And that's how we dance. We get that image in our minds, or there's a creative power in the divine. And that creative power dances us when we listen. That creative power fills us with thoughts and ideas of what it might look like to dance this particular dance. So when I get up in the morning, am I open to God's will, to being in that creative power of what my life is going to look like that day? And that doesn't mean that I say it's going to be like this. I may set an intention out, but I get to see where it's going to go. I get to relax into divine mind. So divine mind is where all things start. That's the creative energy. That's the creative mind. That's where the world began. In the beginning, everything was void. And God said, and it was. God said, and it was. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was formless and empty and dark over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the water. So in the beginning, there was nothing, and divine mind called it into being. So we get to listen to that calling. We get to move into divine mind. We get to listen for God's direction instead of being about our very own. And I can tell you, I get up every morning and I have an idea of what my life should look like that day. And it's usually not that way. And so when I relax and let go, I get a lot more done. It's a lot more fun. I'm much more energized than when I decide it needs to be that way. So we have God's will, and then we have creative energy, and we see that creative energy moving and how it might be. And then what happens? What happens after we have an idea? We want to call it into manifestation. We want to live it. We want to put action to it. Because that's what happened in the beginning. God said, let there be light, and there was. So we have to be willing to take action, to let something be versus just sitting going, okay, today I want all my things in my bedroom. I want to go through them and get rid of the things I don't need. And I'm going to sit here in my chair and read. And it's not going to happen. You know, it's just not. If I'm going to dance, I have to be willing to get up. And I have to be willing to embrace my partner, God, divine, whatever name you use for that partner of yours. And there's many names that can be used. I want to be clear about that. And so all of that brings us to a place of oneness, because we are all one with Creator by any name, by all names. And it's important that we recognize in this place that we are all one, and that we can trust our partner, and we can trust the world. We can trust the divine to have created well. So for me to say, I'm sorry, this person is Jewish, I can't accept him. This person is Muslim, I can't accept him. I can't accept someone who's Hindu. It's just missing the point. Because you see, Jesus said, follow me. Jesus did not say, worship me. He said, follow me. So what did Jesus do? See, we have this beginning of Jesus. We like to look at the birth of Jesus and celebrate Christmas, right? We make a big deal of that. And then we make a big deal of the end at his death and Easter. And so a lot of people make those two their time of church. They come at Christmas, they come at Easter. But what about all the years in between? What was Jesus about? What was he doing? He wasn't saying, worship me. He wasn't saying, I am the only way. He was asking us to get quiet, to go within, to listen to our direction. He was talking about loving people regardless of their background, regardless if they had made this mistake more than once. He didn't say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgave you once. You had that, and I said, okay, we'll let that go. But now you've done it again. Oh, sorry, you're out. No, it wasn't the way it was. Are we willing to live the life that Jesus lived, by the example that he gave us? When he talked about forgiveness, how many times did he say we should forgive?
7 times 70.
Yeah, 7 times 70. You know what that means?
400.
Oh, it doesn't mean that number of 100, whatever, 49. It means that we are to do it until we got it. We are to forgive over and over. And I don't know about you, but there are some things that I forgive and I think I'm through with it and I think it's all handled. And then I see the person, talk to the person, having something similar to whatever happened there happen again. And it's like in my face. And I'm like, darn that person. I have to forgive again. And I have to forgive again. And I have to do it until that can happen to me. That person can come in my face. Somebody can do something very similar. And I go, oh, well, that's life. Because we're out here doing life. We have the divinity of the Christ of God within us, acting through us. And Jesus said that over and over. He said, God is working through us. God is manifesting through us. And so we have to be willing to let that happen. How often we want to be anything but divine. Anybody out here ever cross your hands and go, I'm not going to be good. I don't even want to be good. So we have to get to that place where we're willing, where we're willing to be willing. Anybody ever have to pray for willingness to be willing? Yeah. Help me with my willingness. So how do we know if the voice of God is telling us something or if it's our ego? Yeah, it's a question I get a lot.
Yeah.
Anybody? Come on, I know you know. Marilyn, you look like you've got something right there. Okay. So when God is giving us guidance, it's usually very quiet and loving. It's not a bunch of shoulds, oughta, gotta. It's always loving and kind. It's not about hurting other people, or more importantly, it's not about hurting ourselves or shaming ourselves. God's message to us is never filled with shame because God is a God of love all the time. And where does that shame come from? It comes from our ego. Our ego wants to control us. And what happens is we find ourselves getting frustrated, cynical. We find ourselves out of coherence with truth. And so we feel all askew. And yet, when we listen to that true voice that is kind, that is soft, that is gentle, that is good to everyone, not just you, but good to everyone. Now, I will clarify there, sometimes we don't feel like it's good to everyone. You know, if you have to set a boundary, that doesn't always feel good, does it? And so you say, oh, well, that's what's best for me, but it's not best for the other person. Well, I say, get quiet, become even more still and even quieter. Because if you're asking that question, ego is probably popping up in there and trying to tell you not to do it because you want to do what your ego wants to do. And the ego is just fine. You know, the ego, we need to love the ego because the ego needs lots of love. Ego needs lots of love. It feels scared. It feels like somebody's trying to take away its power. The ego gets scared, but it doesn't matter. We just love it, acknowledge it, and let it go on. And what we talked about, the golden key, and we turn toward that we want instead of turning away from. So God gave us spirit, not of fear, but of power and love. And we're back to some of those 12 powers again. Power and love. And God is a God of love. I think if we just could remember that, God is a God of love, it would be pretty good. But so often we think God is a God of love for everybody but us. But there's something wrong with me. There's something flawed about me. But there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing flawed about you. You are a creation of a loving, divine God. In Philippians 4:9, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy, think about these things. Think about the things that are good. Don't think about the things that bother you. Don't think about what you don't have. Think about what you do have. So if we are listening to God and we're trying to discern yet another power, if we're going to use our power of discernment, first of all, God is usually very quick and short. God doesn't spend a lot of time talking about do it this way, do that, da 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 da. God's message is usually pretty short. And many times it's real surprising to us. I've never thought of that. I would have done anything but that if it had been me, because that's the way I am. But God, on the other hand, is going to surprise us. And oftentimes these ideas make such sense. We go, why didn't I think of that? Wow, that makes such sense. And they usually get right to the point. This is what you need to do, and this is how you need to do it. Didn't waste a lot of time. And they leave a mark. They leave a mark on the world, a positive mark. A mark of beauty, of joy, of peace. Some wonderful mark. And it doesn't have to be huge to leave a mark. I know that each and every one of you have been in a grocery store and somebody smiled at you, said something to you, and you appreciated it, and you felt it. Or you saw something and you went, oh, wow, that is of God. And you felt it. It doesn't have to be huge. God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that it was good. That's you, that's me. God saw that it was good. God saw that it was good and blessed us. So we have the power to imagine. We have the power to bring into manifestation. So this is a question for you today. What is your dream? What have you been thinking about? What keeps kind of coming up from the back of your thoughts? Oh, I would like to, I've been wanting to paint. Oh no, I couldn't paint. No, I've really been wanting, oh no, I couldn't do that. What is that message that's been coming to you that you've been saying, I can't do it. It's not mine. Because you see, we have been given the power of imagination to create, to bring into manifestation. We've been given the power to follow God's will. We've been given choice. And that choice allows us to follow God's will or to listen, to see if we're willing to hear God's will. Oh, is that message I'm getting short? Is it a surprise? Does it make sense? Has it been calling to me, maybe even for a long time, consistently calling for me? I had something that called to me for probably 10 years, and I would say anything but that, God. Anything but that. It went on, it never changed. It was short. It was 2 words. Never stopped. And I ignored it for a long time. Well, I didn't even ignore it. So does it make a difference in the world? Does it make a difference in the world? And are we willing to change our structure of knowing, to know it, to feel it? It's important that we feel something if we want to change it. Are we setting our intention and getting up to act? And it doesn't matter if that action is about getting that thing done or just something, get moving. Because if you get moving on some area of your life, it will get you to where you need to be. So love is the force that brings us together. We are all one, whether we want to say we're not, whether we want to say them and us about other people out there. There's no them and us. We're all here, folks. We're all on this earth making it work. So love is a force that brings us together, that teaches us how to practice spirituality. Because I don't know about you, and I'm going to say this, and I feel strongly about this. It's not about Christianity. We can celebrate Christ. We can recognize the Christ within every one of us. But the truth is, it's about knowing the love that passes all understanding and all religions and all names. Because there are names that other religions use as worship as well. And I know, and I hear it all the time, that as Christians, we say we worship Jesus or we worship the Christ. Well, that's really missing the mark, because it's not about worshiping, it's about living it. And how are you going to live this week in living God, living Jesus, living as Jesus taught? What are you going to do? Jesus, well, actually, this was before Jesus was born. There was a covenant that was written, and it was in Jeremiah 31:31. He says, I give this covenant to the people of Israel. I will put my law in their minds, and I will write it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will they teach their neighbor or say to one another, know the God, because they will know me. They will know me. They will know me from the least of them to the greatest. I will forgive their wickedness, and I will welcome their sins no more. That is to say that we're good, and that it is seen. Our goodness is seen, it is used, it is experienced. We don't have to teach people about God. We know it. We don't have to teach people the rules of law as was taught in the Old Testament, because we know it in our hearts. Do you know it in your heart? Do you know when you're out of alignment with God? What happens?
Everything gets harder.
Everything gets harder, exactly. So when things are getting hard, we know we're out of alignment. So in this two-step that we are doing with the divine, we are about listening for guidance. We're about loving. We're about doing the work that is ours to do. We're about recognizing that it's within every one of us, and it doesn't have to be our way. Now, does anyone else feel uncomfortable about it? Doesn't have to be my way. I want it my way. So I was having a discussion with someone the other day about, do you rather be right or happy?
That's right.
And I always come to the same place. If I can be happy, I can be right. I don't think that's the way it goes. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Are you willing to enjoy the divine that has put all this wonderful, glorious stuff into our lives? And guess what? It's not even about the stuff out there. It's about the stuff in here. Because this is where God has said that we can change. We can start on the inside and let it come out. we can begin that place of knowing and heal all things. Have you ever seen a wound heal? Does it heal from the outside? No, it begins it may, but it begins on the inside, and that's the important part, that it heals on the inside and comes up. Just as we heal from the inside and come up into the world. So in John 1:14, they said that the word was made flesh and dwelt among us. And we have seen the glory of the Son and the Father. It was full of grace and truth. So when we're in that place of the divine, we experience grace and truth. I invite you to breathe that in. Grace and truth. And we don't have to get out and work it or make it happen. We just allow ourselves to dance it, to move, to follow that person, that idea, that energy that dances us. Have you ever been in a room and you decided to dance by yourself and you pretended that somebody was leading you and you just did this wonderful dance? That's what our lives can be. Our lives can be that wonderful two-step that we choose by listening. So there's a quickening within us as we listen. There's an energy, there's a zeal. There's another power. So we have love, we have imagination, we have zeal, we have power. We have these attributes happening when we listen. And life just gets better and better. And there's not a thing in the world that we have to do about it. So are you willing to go out and do the two-step? Are you willing to put your boots on? And go out there and live. And be willing to face fear. Now, that's another part of living, absolutely. It's being willing to face fear, knowing that the fear is not going to take us down. If we have fear and we face something that we're afraid of, then we've just strengthened ourselves and we've strengthened that divine power within us to go out and listen, to see, to do. It's a great way to live. Look at the fear, stand in your strongest boots and look at that fear in the face and say, let's dance. Let's dance, fear. So in this moment, I know that you're all good dancers, that you are all loved, that the divine moves through you with joy. And you can find that space. And you can find that the imagination is always a powerful tool that you can call on. And if you get into a situation you don't know what to do with, sit down and imagine something happen. Just imagine the change that you might have in your life and put on your boots and go out and do the next thing. And so it is. God bless you. For indeed, God is so good. I invite you to breathe that in. God is so good. You are so good. You're a creation of that goodness. And so as we come together in this moment, we recognize that there is a golden thread that runs among us. It runs among us through this room, that runs among us through those who are with us on Zoom. And that same thread reaches out to each person that we encounter. So we know the divine. We experience the divine. We allow ourselves to be filled with gratitude for the activity of the divine within us. And in that, we recognize healing in every cell. We recognize that God is moving through us. God said, follow me. Do as I do. Given us examples of how to love, how to accept people that are different. So I invite you to breathe and to go with that into that sanctuary that is within you, the sanctuary of the Most High. And allow yourself to light a candle there and to relax, to be in this space of the light, of the love. It's sacred in our humanness. We sometimes forget that we are divine. So we rest and we find peace and we listen in the silence. Thank you, God, for direction. Thank you, God, for loving me. Thank you, God. And so I invite you to take one of those deep cleansing breaths once again, letting gratitude fill each cell, each organ of your body. Recognize that there is healing happening on every level. And as we experience healing within ourselves, let us send that healing energy out into our nation, into our world, that we may see peace. Peace among those who struggle, who are hungry and homeless. Let us send peace. Let us send abundance. Let us send truth. As we know that truth, let us return to this time and space and gently open our eyes and look into the eyes of those that are around you. See the truth. And know the truth.
Okay, now as we are going to take our gifts and hold them in our hands and in our hearts, let's say our offering blessing together.
Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
And now Leanne's going to give us another song as we collect our offering.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. The light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us.
Wherever we are,
God is, and all is well.
Yay, God.
And may we all do a two-step together.
Yeah.